Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Intro to Quest video series. In this section, I'll be talking about how you can navigate the file system of Quest using the command line. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is the fact that the Quest file system is shared across all nodes. What this means is that whether you are on a login node, a compute node, or an analytics node, you are able to access all the same files and folders across Quest. So based on that, for the remainder of this video, I will be talking about the three most important directories that you'll be working with on Quest, as well as how to use them, followed by what that might look like on Quest on the user's end and how to navigate the space using the command line through a live demonstration. So let's get straight into the three most important directories that you'll be working with on Quest. The first one is Home. The second one is Projects, and the third one is Scratch. Under the home directory, there will be a bunch of subdirectories named with people's net IDs. So the path to your home directory can be specified with /home/ your net ID. This / notation is called a path, and it can be used to specify any given location in a file system. Under the projects directory, there will be a bunch of subdirectories named with allocation IDs. So the path to your project directories will be /projects/allocation ID. The Scratch directory is pretty similar to your home directory in a sense that the subdirectories under Scratch will be named with people's net IDs. So the path to your Scratch space will be /scratch/net ID. I do want to note here that when you get access to Quest, you will not have Scratch space available by default. So you will need to fill out a form and submit it to us in order to apply for Scratch space. When you first log into Quest, you will be starting from your home directory. Next, let's talk about the difference between the three different directories that we just talked about. The first difference is who has access to these directories. Only you will have access to your home directory, but everyone in a given allocation will have access to all the files and folders under an allocation or projects directory. The Scratch space is similar to your home in a sense that only you will have access. Another big difference is the amount of storage space that you'll have. You will have only 80 gigabytes of storage available in your home directory, but your projects directories will have much more storage space available. And the exact amount of storage space will depend on what type of allocation you have, which I'll talk a little more about in the following slide. Your Scratch space will have 5 terabytes of storage space, but the files under Scratch will have a 30-day limit. So any files under Scratch will be deleted after this time limit. The intended use of your home directory is for you to put any software or scripts here, since these don't take up a lot of space. And we encourage you to put any large data files or output files to your projects directory. You can write any temporary files or intermediate files in your Scratch directory if any programs that you're running are producing a lot of temporary or intermediate files. Quest provides you with handy commands to check how much storage space you're using up in each of these directories. And for home directory, that command is home-du. This will print out a nice summary of how much storage space you're using up, as well as which directories are taking up how much space. For your projects directory, the command will be check project, followed by your allocation ID. This will give you a summary of the allocation, including how much space you're using up and the status of the allocation. For your Scratch space, you can use the command check scratch. And in a later section of this video, I can show you how exactly you can use these commands in a demonstration. Finally, another big difference between the three directories is backups. Your home directory is backed up every 24 hours, but your projects directory and Scratch directories are not backed up. So please be careful when deleting any files that are in projects or Scratch. As for your home directory, if you wish to recover any files from over 24 hours ago, please feel free to open a ticket at quest-help@northwestern.edu. Now, from the previous table, you might be wondering, how much storage space do I get exactly under projects? So the first thing that I wanted to talk about with regards to this is that in order for you to have any amount of storage space on Quest, you will first need to apply for an allocation. Now you can think of an allocation as kind of like a package that gives you compute resources or storage resources or a combination of both. And we have a separate video describing how you can apply for an allocation on Quest. So I will link that video in the description. But let's talk about storage space here on this slide. So for research allocation 1 and research allocation 2, you will get either 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes of storage. These allocations have allocation IDs that start with a P. For classroom allocations, which start with an E, you will have 2 terabytes of storage space. But be careful because this storage space is shared across all members of that classroom allocation. You can also purchase storage resources on Quest. So these are called buy-in allocations, and the allocation IDs start with a B. And if you're interested in buying more storage space on Quest, please feel free to contact us. And since we're on the topic of storage, I also wanted to note that you cannot store any contractually or legally restricted data on Quest. If you're unsure about anything, please feel free to reach out to us at quest-help@northwestern.edu. All right, so that's about it for the contents that I wanted to cover in my slides. So now let's move on to a demonstration so that I can show you some of the things that we talked about, as well as introduce some commands that might help you navigate the file system. Okay, so here I am on my terminal window, and as you might recall from the last section of this video series, I can tell that I am on a login node right now by looking at my prompt, which says QUser31. Now, the first command that I wanted to show you to kind of help navigate Quest is the pwd command. This stands for print working directory. And as the name might indicate, it shows you which directory you are currently in. We can see that we are in /home/Quest demo right now. And as I mentioned in my slides, this is where you will first start when you log into Quest. So Quest demo will be replaced by your own net ID. And this home directory is where you will first start with. The next command that I wanted to introduce is the cd command, which stands for change directory. cd takes one argument, which is the name of the directory that you want to change directories to. So I have created a directory for the purpose of this Intro to Quest video series. So let's change directories there. So you might notice here that our prompt has changed a little bit. And this kind of helps us orient ourselves a little bit in terms of where we are in the file system right now. But we can also simply run the pwd command again to get the full path to where we are right now. Another cool trick with cd, or the change directory command, is that cd followed by no argument actually brings us back to our home directory. So this is quite handy when you want to quickly go back to your home directory. So let's go back to our Intro to Quest directory. And the next command that I want to show you is the ls command. ls stands for list, and this command lists the contents of your current directory or any specified directory. ls followed by no argument lists the contents of your current directory. So let's try running this. And we can see that our current directory has items such as codes, data, example script, and job output. If you want a little more information about these files and folders, you can always add the -l flag. And this gives you some extra information such as timestamp, ownership, and actually the first column of this output here indicates whether each item is a file or a folder. So if you see the first character of this first column, if the first character is a D, which stands for directory, you can tell that this item is a folder or a directory. On the other hand, if it's a hyphen, that's how we know that this is a file and not a folder. As I mentioned, ls can also be used to list the contents of any specified directory. So let's try listing the contents of the data directory. ls data, and we see that the data directory has two files, measurements and samples. The next command that I want to show you is one that allows you to create a new directory. And the command is mkdir, or make directory. This command is followed by one argument, the name of the directory that you want to create. So let's try making a directory called documentation. Once we run this command, if we list the contents of our current directory, we now see documentation. If we list the contents of documentation, however, we won't see anything there because we just created that directory. The next command that I wanted to show you is one that allows you to move a file from one location to another location. The command is mv, which stands for move, and this command takes two arguments, the path to the original file location and the path to the new file location. So let's try moving our job output.txt file into the data directory. Once we hit enter, we will no longer see the job output.txt file in our current directory. But when we list the contents of data, we will now see the job output.txt file here. Let's practice one more time by moving the job output file back to our current directory. Now, in the move command, or actually any other command in Bash, if you want to specify the current directory that you are in, you can do that by typing // So hit enter, and we will now see the job output.txt file back in our current directory. The next command that I want to show you is one that allows you to copy a file to a new location. The command is cp, stands for copy, and this also takes two arguments, path to the original file location and the path to the new file location that you want to copy it to. So the difference between mv and cp is that mv deletes the file from the original location, but cp retains the original file location when it creates the new file in the new location. cp also takes two arguments, so let's try copying the job output.txt file into the data directory. You can also name it something new, for example, job output_copy.txt. So once we run this command, we can see that we still have job output.txt in our current directory. But when we list the contents of data, we will now see job output copy in our data directory. The CP command can also be used to copy entire directories. So let's try duplicating the data directory that we have. If you want to copy whole directories, you need to add the -r flag to the copy command. So let's do cp-r, copying the data directory to data copy. Once we hit enter, now we see that our current directory has the data directory, but also the data copy directory. If we list the contents of data copy, we can see that it has everything that the original data directory had. The next command that I want to introduce is the one that allows you to delete files or folders. I do want to warn you here, as I mentioned in my slides, your projects directory and your scratch directories are not backed up. So please be sure, or please be careful when performing any kind of deletion, because it cannot be undone. The command to delete any files or folders is rm, which stands for remove. And in order to be sure that you don't delete anything that you don't want to, we can always add the -i flag. This will double check every deletion that is performing so that we don't accidentally delete anything that we don't want to. So let's try deleting the job output copy file that we created earlier. Hit enter. And as you can see here, it asks us, are we sure that we want to remove this regular file, data/job output copy.txt? We can indicate yes by typing Y, then hitting enter. Now, when we list the contents of data, we will no longer see the job output copy file. The rm command can also be used to delete entire directories. And as we did with the copy command, we want to add the -r flag when doing that. And we also always want to add the -i flag to double check any deletion. Let's try deleting the data copy directory that we created earlier. Hit enter. And as you can see, it will double check every deletion that is performing. Now, when we list the contents of our current directory, we no longer see data copy here. All right, so I just cleared my terminal window, and now that we've covered a bunch of commands that are more kind of generally bash commands that help you navigate Quest, I also wanted to touch on some of the Quest specific commands that I introduced in my slides as well. So if you recall, home.du is a command that allows you to get the storage utilization summary of your home directory. So let's hit enter. And it says beginning detailed disk usage report for /home/quest demo. And we can see here that we are using up about 40% of the 80 gigabyte quota that we have. And you might notice here that the command actually hasn't finished running. So this is because if you wait long enough, this will print out a very detailed summary of which directories in your home directory is taking up how much space, which can be very handy if you're trying to free up some space in your home directory. But as we can see here, this can be quite a time-consuming operation. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to terminate this command. And the next command that I wanted to show you that was also in that same table was check project. Check project is a command that allows you kind of a similar utilization summary of your projects directory. And this command is followed by one argument, which is your allocation ID. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know which allocation I'm a part of? The command that gives you that information is the groups command. Enter, and this gives you the list of allocations that you're a part of. The names of the allocations might look a little bit different here since this is a demo account that we're using, but you'll have any research allocations here starting with the P or buy-in allocations starting with the B. So let's try running the check projects command. And let's try running the command for this allocation that we see here. Hit enter. And this is the summary that you will see printed. So we see that we are using 5% of the quota that we have associated with this allocation. We can see the allocation type, we see the expiration date, the status of the allocation, whether it's expired or active. And we can also see whether this is a storage only allocation or a compute and storage allocation. Some allocations are associated only with storage, meaning that you can't submit any jobs with that allocation. So check project also gives you information about whether you can use this allocation to submit jobs or not. All right, so the third command that I had on that same table, if you recall, was check scratch. Check scratch is a command that tells you if you have any files in your scratch space that will be deleted in the next few days. And this command takes one argument, and that's the number of days for the kind of the time window that you want to check for. So if you run check scratch followed by 5, this will give you a summary of all the files that will be deleted in the next 5 days. Now, Quest Demo, this account actually does not have scratch space associated with it. So I won't be running this command right now, but this is also kind of a reminder that once you get access to Quest, you will need to apply for scratch space. You will not have that space by default. So I will terminate this command here. That is it for the 3 kind of Quest specific commands that I wanted to show you. And before we wrap up this section, I wanted to show you a couple of commands that you can use to log out of Quest. So let's say you got on Quest, you did all the work that you wanted to, and now you want to log out. You can either use the exit command or log out command. Once we hit enter, we will see that the connection to Quest is now closed. Now, before we move on to the next section, I just wanted to point you to places where you can find more information on bash commands. So if you are an experienced user of bash, you can always see a lot of information about any command by typing man followed by command in your prompt. And this will give you the manual of this command that you specified. If you are a more beginning user, I like to go to websites like linuxize.com, which offer the manual of the command alongside many examples. And I also want to point you to the bash scripting YouTube tutorial that we have, which is very useful in learning commands that might be useful in using Quest specifically. All right, so in this section, I talked about how you can navigate the file system on Quest. I introduced differences between your home directory, your projects directory, and your Scratch directory. And through a live demonstration, I showed you what that might look like as a user on Quest. In the next section, I'll be talking about how to use and manage software on Quest. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.